Hello, this video is an introduction to my little app, Clever Notepad. Clever Notepad is just a simple text document, text application, very similar to the default Microsoft Notepad. Like many people, I used to sort lots of files on my computer, and I used to open them and view them and manipulate them in Microsoft Notepad. I used to manage my entire life with Microsoft Notepad documents, and I like to create text documents for pretty much most every project that I do. So I have thousands upon thousands of text documents on my computer, but I realized that I needed a better solution than the default Notepad app that Microsoft makes, and there are thousands of Notepad apps out there, but I couldn't quite find one that had everything I wanted. So that's why I made my own app called Clever Notepad. So for starters, you'll notice that it has the typical text entry functionality, but if we are to look at the top here, we have these two functions. When you click on the F of X button, then you'll notice that we have several functions here which allow you to manipulate text in the document. So what this is it gives you lots of ways to tweak the text. This is particularly useful when you need to clean a text document, or if you want to prune things from a document, if you do anything with Excel or anything with Microsoft Word or anything with the lists. You know that you're always trying to clean up various items in a document. The most simple one being replace X with Y. So if I have here, I have car, and if I say replace car with bike, then of course that is a simple word replace. It replaces the word car with the word bike. And we have all sorts of functions for HTML. Hopefully these are pretty self-explanatory by the text here in the actual category. Capitalize, for example, will capitalize the first character. Uppercase turns it all into uppercase. Lowercase puts you into lowercase, etc., etc. So there's lots of functions here to play with. If you need to search for a function, then of course you can do that, and once you find the function you can execute it, or you can push the blue character just to see all of the functions in that category, or just clear your list to go back to a display of all the functions like that. That's the first tab. The second tab, headings. So this tab will allow you to view the headings of your document. You see in Clever Notepad, a heading is just defined as a body of text that has some equal signs around it. So if I create a new heading and I just make a lot of equal signs, then you'll notice that my new heading has appeared right there, just because Clever Notepad is looking for these equal signs. So it will allow me, it will create a new heading item there when it sees enough equal signs here in the row. And then here you can make a list of whatever you want here. And yeah, on my computer I have all my text documents are now arranged by a series of headings. This can be very useful when you have a large text document where you need to jump around. You can see as I click on an item, it will flash blue for a moment, and that indicates what I'm looking at. And this can be very useful when you have long documents. Like here, this is a list of keywords. If you do anything with advertising, for example, you know that you're always juggling long lists of keywords that you might be bidding on. For example, in this case, cat toys. And you might want to put brackets around every keyword, or do other functions that are in the list here. So me being a keyboard guy, that's one of the things I use a lot, but I also use it just for managing a list of just logs or things that I've done or things that I have to do, or anything where I have to save data along with file folder. Now moving back on top now, the stick to corner button will cause the app's bottom right corner to stay in the bottom right corner of your primary monitor. This can be very useful because this is dead space here in the bottom of your computer, and usually it's nice to be able to examine around so that if you have a long text in your document, you can see all the text come to the end here. For example, if I paste in some particularly long text, you can see I can't actually read the text because we are not word wrapping right now. So I can click the word wrap button, and that will put it into a mode where now the long sentences are now being word wrapped, meaning that it's more of it's being wrapped at the width of the app, more like a Microsoft Word file. When word wrap is off, it's just saved into single sentences. The heading button will allow you to create a heading if you don't want to actually physically type the equal signs themselves. You can also print the document, and the trim document is useful when you want to rapidly clean up a document. It removes all the spaces and it removes all the strange characters, and this can be useful sometimes, particularly when you're copying from the internet and you have lots of weird spaces and characters and you just like to have text only. This is a quick cleanup tool, and it has a typical search search feature here, which allows you to search around the document for every instance of the character. The home button allows you to go back to home, which just means that it will put the caret in the top left position of the app. It will move this to the top left, this to the left, and it'll put the caret there. That's all. Home just means I want to go to the first character in the document. Now, one very important feature is this check mark here. When you push this check mark, the document goes into this data mode where it puts a little check mark on every line in the document. And this can be very useful if you have, for example, a typical web form. You can see here this web form is asking for first name, last name, country, and subject. Now, when I'm in this check mark mode, all I have to do is type my 4 items here, make sure my first field is selected. So you see I'm going to need 4 items here, which I've already typed out. Now to send these 4 items to these 4 fields, all I have to do is right click on the blue check mark itself and tell Clever Notepad how many lines I want to send. In this case, I want to send 4 lines. So all I have to do is click here, and these 4 lines will be put into these 4 tabs. Now I can't actually show you now because my web screen recorder is running, and the recorder itself is the on-top application, so it won't let me paste in these values when I'm recording my screen. But if my recorder was off, then what you'd see is that these 4 values have just been placed into the contact form itself. So that can be extremely useful because you know on the internet there are websites that just have horrible web forms that you have to fill out again and again, and sometimes they are very, very tedious. But if you have a little function like this, then it really helps you to fill out complicated forms because you can just write everything in a text document, save it someplace, or not save it, but just save it someplace if you need it again later, or if not, you can just send it in to the field whenever you want, and it makes things much, much easier for complicated web forms or for forms that you have to fill out repeatedly. That's the little blue check mark feature. Now, another important feature is that Clever Notepad allows you to integrate with Void Tools. Void Tools is a company that makes the free app Everything, everything.exe. Everything is a very, very popular Microsoft Windows utility, and it's free to download from the voidtools.com website. And if you look at our settings page, you'll notice that you can set up everything integration right here. And when you do that, that will allow you to reference files on your hard drive merely with quotes. So you can see this is a picture of a cat on my hard drive someplace. But if I want to open this document from here, I can search everything's I can send this string of text to everything, and you can see that everything has located the cat in this folder. Now I can just click it twice to execute it, or if I want to avoid that step, I can click the second link. This is an I'm feeling lucky link, meaning that it will simply execute the first item that comes up in everything's list. So if I click here, and you can see that it has located the cat and it has executed the cat for me. So this can be very, very useful when you have a complicated project and you have lots of pieces of information, files, folders that you're referring to. You can always place them here, and as long as they're in quotation marks, Clever Notepad will use everything to find it. This will go for file paths as well. You can see this is a very long file path, but if I just right click on it, then I can open the file path here, and Clever Notepad located it and opened it for me. In the same sense, I can actually also paste website URLs, and when I right click on it, it will open it in the default web browser, and you can see that Clever Notepad has just opened up that website there. Now, once you get used to this functionality of being able to open URLs, file folders, files, in everything, once you start getting used to this functionality, you'll never want to go back to anything else, because in my own documents, I refer to files and paths and websites that are all over the place, and there's just no way I'd want to be able to keep track of them, or I'd want to go back to just copying and pasting file paths and URLs and searching for documents, because now it's just so easy thanks to this integration with everything.exe. Everything basically just maintains a list of all the files on your hard drive, and it makes them easy to search for. So I highly recommend you download this guy's app. I don't know this person, but I've contacted him several times, and he's always been pretty helpful. You can see he works off of just donations. This is just June 4th is today, so that's how much he's made just today. He's making a lot of money just in donations, so this is a really, really useful tool he has put out, and all of my own software apps, they all talk to his app, so very useful tool. Moving back along the top now, we have a typical save button. A white disk means you don't need to save, but an orange disk means that you do have text to save here. You can see I just typed something new, so the disk has turned orange, and now it's white again. We have a typical undo and redo buttons. This yellow button will turn your document into a post-it note, which basically just means it becomes a small little square, and the word wrap switch has turned on and the stay on top switch has turned on. And that's useful because that means it will go on top of your other documents. You can see that this browser is going under the app when I go, like when the switch is on. If I turn this off, this app will go over Clever Notepad. So that can be useful because post-it notes are typically on top, and that's why that switch is turned on. So that's the little post-it feature. If you have something that you need to remember, then you can just stick this in the corner of your monitor, put it into post-it mode, and that could be useful if you have a little piece of text that you need to address in a moment, but you need to be mindful of it. Then you can go into post-it mode. And additionally, we have a few items in utilities. So you can rename a file right while the file is open. You can also send it to the recycle bin. You can open the containing folder of the file. You see when I click here, then the file will open, and this is the contents of my file folder. The file is located right there on my hard drive. So that's useful if you want to locate the file itself. You can copy the path to the Windows clipboard, or you can reload the file. This is similar to refresh in a web browser. So if you have some data that you don't want, you can just reload the file and it'll just revert back to the saved file. And it looks like we'll probably stop the tutorial right there. Most importantly, when you try this app, you want to familiarize yourself with the way that it can integrate with everything and open files on your hard drive, and that can be really useful once you kind of get the hang of it, as well as using the new heading functionality as displayed in the headings tab there, because once you start organizing your documents in terms of headings, then it just becomes infinitely useful, and you wouldn't want to go through long documents without having a nice little navigation tree here, because it just becomes very, very useful for organizing large documents. So we'll end the tutorial there for now, but thank you for checking out my app.